here to support Americans first.
Supporters of former President Trump lining the streets in San Francisco tonight, hoping to catch a glimpse of the presumptive Republican nominee. Protesters right there with them.
Tried to steal an election, inspired an insurrection, but he's now got 34 felony counts on his resume.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Former President Trump arrived in San Francisco just about an hour ago, and he headed straight to a private fundraiser that's being hosted by a wealthy Silicon Valley venture capitalist. This is all part of a 4-day trip across the West. Trump visited Phoenix earlier today, where he took part in a town hall meeting, and the Trump campaign is expected to take in millions of dollars at fundraisers tonight and in the coming days. We begin our coverage of this West Coast swing with KTVU's Greg Lee in San Francisco.
Barricades and police officers line the streets of Pacific Avenue in San Francisco's Pacific Heights neighborhood. All of it for a high-dollar fundraiser featuring former President Trump 1 week after his criminal conviction in New York.
And I'm really looking forward to being there, welcoming him, and, kind of feeling the excitement of California's tech glitterati who have decided to publicly support President Trump. I think it's incredible. The energy is really palpable.
The last time Mr. Trump attended a fundraiser in the Bay Area was in September of 2019 when he was president. The sold-out event hosted at the home of venture capitalist David Sachs. Tickets ranging from $50,000 a person to $500,000 a couple.
Quite frankly, there's a lot of preference falsification going on in Silicon Valley. I know there's a lot of people in Silicon Valley
well, we know because we know who's coming.
There's a lot of people who I do think support Trump.
What you're seeing from these sort of billionaire national level tech leaders is their deep concern about the direction of this country, not just California.
In the 48 hours after the guilty verdict, the Republican National Committee said it raised $70 million, bolstering a total of $141 million for the Trump campaign in May. In a fundraising email, Jimmy Kimmel wrote on behalf of the Biden-Harris campaign saying this about Trump: he is protected by far-right mouthpieces and billionaire mega-donors who'd gladly eat crab cakes while the world burns if it means they pay less in taxes.
It seems pretty clear that most of Trump's largest donors, not just in Silicon Valley, but around the country, are driven primarily by economic and financial questions. These are very wealthy people who generally benefit from lower taxes and less regulation.
UC Berkeley political science professor Dan Schnurr says despite early polling, it's too early to know the exact impact of Trump's conviction on voters, but he believes there will be some.
The most reasonable expectation at this point, and it's worth keeping in mind we've never had a political landscape like this before, where one of the two major parties' nominees has been convicted of a felony. At this point, it appears that there will be some shift away from Trump and in Biden's direction, but not an immense one.
While the sold-out audience is excited to hear from the former president, at least one neighbor says Mr. Trump is not welcome.
If we want to have like a progressive identity, being, very inclusive, and all of those things that go along with it, we should live our values, and everybody should be rejecting people like Trump coming to our town.
And that was KTVU's Greg Lee reporting tonight. Former President Trump's supporters turned out early in the Bay Area today. Dozens of people lined up along San Francisco's Marina Green waving flags. Trump's backers said they want the former president to know he's welcome, even in heavily liberal San Francisco. Some people said they suspect there's more support for Trump in the Bay Area than people know.
Some are just waiting. They're waiting for November 5th to express their viewpoint, and they're just quietly waiting until that day.
I'm here for democracy. We need to save democracy. And I believe that this individual that they're supporting is not the person for me.
Across the street from the pro-Trump demonstration, a smaller group of protesters stood holding signs today, arguing the former president is unfit to be reelected to the White House. The former president was in Arizona earlier today. People lined up outside a church in Phoenix, hoping to attend a town hall meeting held by the Trump campaign. Fox 10's Brian Webb spoke to people in that crowd.
The former president teed up his usual talking points today, that immigration is out of control, the election was stolen, and that he's the victim of constant witch hunts. And evidence or not, that's exactly what his supporters want to hear.
Trump train.
Rise and shine, the early bird gets the seat inside a Trump town hall.
It is a lot of fun to go to a Trump rally for those people who haven't been there before. You meet a lot of great people, so I'm used to getting here early, and I like to try and get a seat up front.
I'm here to support our 45th president. Just thank him for coming and spending time with us after what happened to him in New York.
Rally shirts, guys. Souvenir Phoenix t-shirt. Cash or card. We got the hats here. You guys want hats? We got them.
It started with an almost carnival-like atmosphere. The line to get in twisting and turning, but going nowhere fast. A small price to pay for the MAGA faithful, ready to echo Trump's grievances every step of the way.
I want to go see him. I want to hear what he's got to say, and I know what he's got to say. I just want to be a part of it, but this time, buy myself a new hat.
The president right now is just letting everything just go because he figures, you know, we bring illegal aliens in here. They're potential voters for him. I mean, but it's at the expense of other people. Cops getting killed, people getting beat up. I mean, we need to restore order.
But as the long, hot day dragged on, several people were rushed to the hospital, most suffering heat exhaustion under the sweltering sun. Only a handful of protesters showed up here, like this woman with her sign, "Make America Gullible Again," worried for her safety and often looking over her shoulder.
I'm not in support of Donald Trump, no, I'm not. I don't feel that he's best for this country. He's too divisive. And it's scary. I'm nervous. Like I'm nervous about the MAGA crowd. I'm almost afraid to even have to sign out, to be honest with you. I'm kind of like nervous, and I think that says a lot right there.
Inside, the former president unleashed his usual attacks to an adoring crowd, from immigration to the courts, the election, and President Biden.
Joe Biden's order is pro-invasion, pro-child trafficking, pro-women trafficking, pro-human trafficking, pro-drug dealers, and in all, it's really they bring death and they bring destruction into our country. We're going to win the great state of Arizona, and we're going to...
The Phoenix Fire Department says close to a dozen people were taken to the hospital from today's event, and it looked like maybe a couple of hundred were turned away at the front door when the church hit capacity, listed online at about 3,000 seats. In North Phoenix, I'm Brian Webb, Fox 10 News.
Today, President Biden stressed the importance of freedom and democracy during a ceremony marking the 80th anniversary of D-Day. The president delivered a speech in France after meeting with some of the World War II veterans who stormed the beach at Normandy. The World War II invasion was a catalyst to ending Hitler's regime. 80 years later, the president says bowing down to dictators is unthinkable.
We must remember the fact that they were heroes here that day does not absolve us from what we have to do today. Democracy is never guaranteed. Every generation must preserve it, defend it, and fight for it.
The president's speech came the same day his administration announced another $225 million in military aid to Ukraine. A suspected serial killer accused of murdering 3 women in the Portland area made his first court appearance today. Jesse Calhoun pleaded not guilty to the killings of Joanna Speaks, Charity Lynn Perry, and Bridget Leanne Webster. Calhoun is facing 3 charges of second-degree murder and 3 charges of second-degree abuse of a corpse. The victims' families were at the court hearing.
There's still a whole lot of process, a whole lot of stuff that needs to be done before anything else, but we're on the right step.
Calhoun is also considered a person of interest in the deaths of 2 other women, but no charges have been brought against him in those cases so far. Tonight, a 30-second cell phone video is under scrutiny. It shows Seattle police officers beating a man. Fox 13's Alejandra Guzman shows us the clip that some believe proves the officers went too far.
It was animalistic. It looked like a gang. It looked like gang activity.
Downtown Seattle, the Rainier Avenue cell.
Friday afternoon's errand run came to a halt when DeAnthony Marcel's bus ride approached this intersection in the Mount Baker neighborhood.
They're just beating him at first. It doesn't look like they're trying to arrest anybody.
Looking out, stuck inside the bus,
Oh my God.
he saw two Seattle police officers, batons in hand, repeatedly hitting a man they're struggling with. D'Anthony never imagined he'd see this, what appears to be the officers kneeling close to the man's neck and back, being this aggressive.
And it should never be allowed, period.
While the 36-year-old bystander has no idea what happened leading up to these moments, he firmly believes the situation could have been handled differently. Seattle Police Interim Chief Sue Rohr says she's seen the 40 seconds D'Anthony captured and is working on reviewing all videos to get a complete picture of what happened. D'Anthony says it's not about the before and after.
Is this excessive use of force?
Yes.
Based solely on the video, I'm not seeing any justification for this level of force. That said, the video is just a snippet.
Former prosecutor Mark Lindquist says SPD has a strict use of force policy. It must be objective and reasonable.
There's no reason for the chief or anybody else to rush to judgment here. We're going to find out what happened. There's going to be body cam footage.
The Office of Police Accountability is investigating.
Who are we supposed to call when you guys are beating us up like that? I want that answer.
Alejandra Guzman, Fox 13 News.
Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a takedown of suspected shoplifters in Washington. Tonight, see how deputies closed in for arrests in a major retail theft crackdown. Also celebrating the past and the future. We'll take you to a festival in Hawaii honoring indigenous communities.
And the heat is on for lots of the West Coast. We'll talk about where the big heat is and where the cool down is as well. I'll see you back here with that.
Newly released video shows a retail theft crackdown in Washington that ended with 12 arrests. The Clark County Sheriff's Office had a helicopter in the air on Saturday when deputies went after suspected shoplifters in Hazel Dell outside of Vancouver. 10 people were arrested for theft. One person was picked up on a felony warrant related to organized retail theft. Another was arrested for trespassing. Investigators say this operation was designed to disrupt retail theft and other associated crimes. U.S. regulators are set to move forward with antitrust investigations into 3 companies that are dominating the AI industry, including 2 Bay Area tech giants. The Justice Department and Federal Trade Commission have reached a deal to split responsibility for investigating NVIDIA, Microsoft, and OpenAI. The DOJ will investigate Santa Clara-based chipmaker NVIDIA, while the FTC will look into close business partners Microsoft and the maker of ChatGPT, OpenAI, which is based in San Francisco.
They're worried that because of the value of Microsoft and the knowledge of OpenAI and the hardware of NVIDIA, they will have some kind of agreement where they can just keep it for the big tech companies. And the newcomers, the startup, nobody can compete with them.
NVIDIA and OpenAI declined to comment today on these investigations. Microsoft didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. 3 Jewish students at UCLA are suing over recent protests on campus. They filed a complaint accusing the university of allowing anti-Semitic activists to block their access to classrooms, the library, and campus offices.
Police officers were on site, but they were instructed by the university not to facilitate students getting through.
Pro-Palestinian protesters have also criticized the way the university handled the whole situation. They say the university failed to protect them when a brawl between protesters and counter-protesters happened back in April. UCLA has issued a statement on the lawsuit. School leaders say they will, quote, review and respond in due course. UCLA remains committed to supporting the safety and well-being of the entire Bruin community. And remember, the school's police chief, John Thomas, has been reassigned with 2 investigations now underway into his handling of those protests. We have an update tonight on demonstrations at Stanford University. We told you about them last night on the show. A spokesperson tells KTVU any students arrested yesterday who were eligible to graduate will not be able to receive their diplomas while their conduct cases are pending, and they will not be able to participate in commencement. More than a dozen pro-Palestinian protesters were arrested for occupying the office of the school president. Yesterday was Stanford's last day of spring classes. Starting today, strip clubs in Washington can now serve alcohol. This change is one part of what's being called a stripper's Bill of Rights. It passed during the last legislative session, and it paves the way for adult entertainment venues to sell alcohol. That permission is contingent on dancers getting more workplace protections, including creating a customer blacklist, which can ban someone crossing boundaries. It also requires clubs to install panic buttons for dancers and requires the hiring of more security. All right, turning to our weather here in the West, and it was another scorcher across much of the West today. Here is a live look tonight at a toasty Phoenix, where temperatures topped out at 110 degrees today. This week's excessive heat has city leaders in Phoenix worried about the safety of people in the community.
Preventing heat deaths is top of mind first and foremost. We know that the number of fatalities has been increasing, unfortunately increasing quite a lot in recent years, and we want to move those numbers in the other direction as quickly as possible.
Phoenix does have cooling centers set up all across the city. One of them in the downtown area is open around the clock. For more, let's bring in KTVU Chief Meteorologist Bill Martin for a look at how long this heat is going to stick around. Bill?
Yeah, and the mayor had it right down there in Phoenix. Here's the heat. You can see the huge area. It's the West Coast event for sure. 105 in Redding, all the way down to Tucson, where it's 108 degrees. Heat is the thing, of course, it causes the most issues with health in terms of death and injury. With weather, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, heat does more damage and you look at the areas of populated area that are under these heat watches, not only a heat watch, but an excessive heat warning in California all the way down into Vegas and south into Phoenix. So it's hot, not so in Seattle. Seattle hit 69 degrees today, although that's a nice day in Seattle for sure. And then we take a peek at San Francisco. They're about 62, down a bunch from yesterday. Yesterday, San Francisco was in the mid 70s. Big cool down in the Bay Area proper. Los Angeles, 76 degrees, and they've had pretty persistent fog on the coast down there near Orange County and San Diego. Big ridge of high pressure. That's the whole story with us in the West Coast. And you can see cooler up here with a bit of an onshore flow, but you've got all this heat down here. And really, it's going to hang on for a while, especially in the desert Southwest. So as you look at the forecast for the period here, it's really like Phoenix is going to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're going to be at 110, 109, 106 degrees. Temperatures in San Francisco much cooler, and of course that has a lot to do with the sea breeze that has now kicked in. Los Angeles coastal is mild to cool, but if you go inland a little bit into San Bernardino and out into some of the areas, Lancaster, east of Los Angeles, you're back into the 100. So it's real hot on the West Coast, and it's going to continue that way really right through the weekend for the most part. So this temperature footprint is going to be pretty much mimicked tomorrow, the next day, and especially when it reaches down here. In terms of rain, not happening, nothing in terms of rain coming our way, and just continued heat. Next week looks like it's going to be hot as well. As we look at the forecast for all these cities, and you can see again that it's going to be the biggest, the hottest down in Phoenix. There's the forecast. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, that warm weather here in the West has caused a big jump in the grasshopper population in the Sacramento area. Take a look at this video. Tiny grasshoppers have become a big problem for one family in Rancho Cordova. They started hatching about 2 weeks ago. Lately, they've had to spray the bugs off the side of their home with a hose. Their dogs are also afraid to go outside, and they're worried about their garden.
And they're still hatching because I'm still finding little nymphs. So it's not like it's just one hatching and then it's going to be done. They're still hatching. So I don't believe in using poison, but I might have to go get some spectricide or something. I don't really want to do that in my yard.
Experts say people who don't want to spray pesticides can cover their gardens with netting or cloth to try to keep the grasshoppers away.
The commitment to put those canoes on those vessels or on the water to be here is huge.
It comes around only once every 4 years. See the special way that Hawaiians are celebrating their culture. Plus, a bear wandering through a Utah neighborhood. It's captured on video. We'll tell you how wildlife officials responded to this unusual sighting. NASA says a helium leak likely won't compromise the mission for Boeing's Starliner capsule. The spacecraft docked at the International Space Station today, despite the loss of several guidance-controlled jet thrusters due to that leak. Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suddy Williams will spend 8 days on the space station. While they're there, they'll test how Starliner's configuration works with the space station's existing framework. This week, the Hawaiian island of Oahu is hosting a special celebration of arts and culture. The festival's goal is to celebrate Indigenous Pacific Islanders. KHON 2 News' Alina Lee takes us to the event that happens only once every 4 years.
Canoes from more than 20 Pacific nations sailed onto the shores of Kualoa Regional Park during a grand symbolic welcoming, some having canoed directly from their home.
The King of New Zealand and the Princess are here. We've begun to meet former prime ministers and people that are in Parliament.
We had Cook Islands drumming, and now we have Aotearoa behind us, teaching the whole crowd how to sing songs.
The Va'a ceremony initiates the Festival of Pacific Arts and Culture with performances and spiritual teachings from all across Oceania.
The canoes from the South Pacific decided that they were going to come. That feat is a huge feat. It's not easy, even for all the canoes that didn't come necessarily by sailing. They were shipped over. The commitment to put those canoes on those vessels or on the water to be here is huge.
The festival, hosted on Oahu for the first time in its 52-year-long history, only happens once every 4 years and in different countries.
We're all connected. This ocean has always connected us. It's never separated us, as others might have thought. But it allowed us to stay as one family. So being together today, we get to celebrate that.
The main showcase of FestPac will be the Festival Village at the Hawaii Convention Center, which will be free and open to the public starting Thursday.
We're expecting about 100,000 individuals to come and experience FestPac. Please do, because Hawaii or anyone in America will not host FestPac again, probably for 50 years.
There will be practitioners, there will be artists in each hale hosting it, as well as cultural performances.
Alina Lee, KHON 2 News, working for Hawaii.
Finally tonight, an unusual animal sighting in the middle of Salt Lake City. That's where a bear wandered right into a neighborhood. A doorbell camera captured the black bear running along the street before climbing up a tree. Wildlife officials say the bear was a male between 2 and 3 years old. After about 3 hours up in that tree, the bear was eventually tranquilized and taken away.
What we hope to do is find the perfect location where we don't have campsites, where we don't have livestock, people and that type of thing. But we also want to make sure that we have lush green vegetation and plenty of water.
Veterinarians will examine the bear before it can be released back into the wild. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching as always. Have a great night.